Good. Look at that. So look at this technology. So we're live on Facebook, Instagram shortly, recording. Super, super, super. Oh, Jeff from Barnyard Doors. Awesome. Nice to see you, Jeff.
What's up, man?
Sweet. All right. So I'm just going to get everyone, make sure to mute your mics, and we are going to get this ball rolling here. Let's just do this really quick. All right. So let's see if we can see me here. Good, good, good. Give me one more second. All right. Nigel, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, great. So for those that are on the call, I see a lot of familiar names and faces. So that's wonderful. As I was saying to Nigel, I've got such a loyal community of friends and family and students. So I'm really grateful that you guys are all tuned in right now. And I'm live on Facebook, but I can't see anyone's messages. So I will at some point chime into there and see the thread. But right now, I don't even really need to introduce myself that much. My name is Brendan, also known as the Gut Whisperer. And for those that don't know, I work with individuals. I fix people's digestive issues. I'm always starting with the gut. And through trial and tribulations and many years of experience, I've incorporated various different types of supplements to optimize individuals' health through my protocol of resetting one's digestion. And my first mentor, who's on the call right now, Dr. Nandor Bajuz, he is very experienced with functional medicine. And he mentioned previously, earlier on, he was using domesticated liver, and now he's using it again, and he sees the benefits and I see the benefits. And so what prompted this call is we were discussing it. I'm like, man, I got to find a Canadian supplier. And I finally did, because I'm going to be incorporating some of these supplements in my protocol with my clients, but I can't educate, and I don't know much about organ meat, and I don't know much about glandulars. So why not get the CEO and founder of Higher Healths, who's in Calgary, Alberta. Thankful that you're on the call right now. And this is such an amazing opportunity, because now we can get it right from not the horse's mouth, but the cow's mouth sort of thing. Right. And nice. This is a great learning opportunity to learn all the benefits of consuming healthy supplements. And we're trying to eat in our ancestral ways, and this is such a good opportunity to learn. So Nigel, thank you very much for doing this. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Brendan.
Yeah. So first off, let's just fire off just a couple questions. Who are you? Who is Nigel O'Quinn? And where exactly in Alberta do you reside, and what type of a farm do you have?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for having me on. Nice to see everybody here. Yeah, appreciate that. Where I go back, how far is a good question. So, just kind of learning a little bit about your story there too, Brendan. I got put onto the trail of wanting to improve my own nutrition very early on through athletics, and quickly got steered down the wrong direction in my life, going to school to want to learn more about it, funny and oddly enough. So in terms of organ meats, however, just to get right on track, I've always been a proponent of organ meats. Not that I always knew why, but it was always in my family's diet. So we consumed these meats, not really fully understanding why. I admittedly did not like them at all as a child, and actually still do not like them prepared as I did have them as a child. So this is not a knock to my mother's cooking. She's a great cook, but I prefer not to have my organ meats cooked. That's the only thing. So further on, getting involved in nutrition, and I've always been into hunting as well, and I would like to harvest these organ meats. And so I would take them, and I'm a sharer. I wanted to share these organ meats. I wanted to share the harvest, the catch, the hunt. And I was always met with the same hesitancy or complete no, right in the face of no, that stinks, that smells bad, that looks horrible. I don't want to try that stuff. So, and that's kind of the normal. I think most people turn their noses up at organ meats, and I get it. And so with my wife, that's where it all kind of came crumbling down, and I decided I needed to take action on this. So my wife is in her reproductive years. We finally hit that point where we wanted to build a family, and lo and behold, she would not consume liver. And that's where I put my foot down. That was not possible. I was not going to be growing a family with somebody that was not going to be having the most nutrient dense foods cut out of their diet. So there wasn't a single way that I could cook it or prepare it for her to consume it. So I started to make desiccated organ meats. And then from there, I wanted to share it more. And before I knew it, I had something that I just really wanted to add into pretty much every Canadian's diet, again, that had long been stripped away. And so there was the birth of Higher Healths, and making sure that way more Canadians got this reincorporated into their diet.
So let me ask you a question then. And it's funny, you'd mentioned just about eating liver, kind of whether you liked it or not. Same thing. I grew up the same way. My mom, twice a year, whether we liked it or not, you just kind of plug your nose and eat it. And I remember her soaking it in the milk and putting the flour on it. Same, and it really was good, but just, not our favorites. What made you decide, or how did you come to the realization that liver is one of the most nutrient abundant foods out there?
Yeah, so I guess there would have been, my foray into nutritional courses and getting ill from going to school and learning, that the Canadian Food Guide. When you go to school, basically you become the expert salesperson on the Canadian Food Guide. So the more that I incorporated the false fats and the grains and the wheats in the diet, the more I got sick. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with the gentleman named Paul Chek, who says that when you get ill, that's just your guru has arrived. And so there I went on this journey of having to fix that up. And so I started learning about some of the nutritional staples that have been long cut out of our diet. And another physician that I turned my head to was a Dr. Catherine, who has, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the book, but it was a really important book in my life, where she just connected you to real foods and those staples again. I think your camera's on somebody here. I'm looking at someone's ceiling here. But anyways, hi. So it was I got turned on to ancestral eating from that point on. But I was able to connect the dots really quickly, because I noticed that when I would go on a hunt and I would take the organ, I would mostly take the liver, and the heart were always coming with me. I just felt a drastic difference when I had liver in my diet. And back then I couldn't put my finger on it, what it was, but I just felt like I had taken something that it felt illegal. Let's just put it that way. It felt amazing. So that's kind of how I got dialed into it. And then through my own learning, understanding that there was truly something that our ancestors knew that has long been forgotten in our culture today. So,
well, and you said you had that intuitive factor to know that you wanted to go for the liver and the heart. And I'm going to reference this a lot, and I'm sure you're going to get a chuckle with this, but for those that are on the call, if you follow the Liver King on Instagram, you'll see the same thing. And he says it, and Dr. Paul Salandino says it. Tribes or hunters, they go for the liver first. Do they not? Is that true?
Very intelligent animals absolutely do. They still do today. And yes, ancient cultures and tribes, the really cool thing about the liver, it's the largest of all the organs. So that would have been easily the most shared and revered among all the organs. Absolutely.
Amazing. So with your hunting background, being out in the western part of Canada, you own a farm, is that correct?
I do not own a farm. I've always been incorporated in farms through, I think literally we're the only family out of my entire extended family without a farm. We got kind of robbed from that, but grew up around farms my entire life. So what we do for what we do is we have partnered up with regenerative farmers that do 100% grass-fed, grass-finished for the animals that we utilize for our product.
Awesome. And so why don't you give me a background on Higher Health? When did it start? How did it start? And then how has it evolved to where we are today?
Yeah, so you know what, we ended up we started, I remember the date very clearly because I was actually in contact. I don't know if Dr. Paul Saladino will remember this at all, but great guy anyways. We started our company 2 weeks before they did.
Oh, wow.
And so just basically 2 years ago that we had started. Now, we would have started way earlier, probably about 8 or 9 months earlier, if, you know, needless to say, there's a lot of red tape that's involved in getting started in Canada. So very different from all of our competitors that source out of New Zealand. And we're the only ones that source out of North America and out of Canada.
So
And
sorry to cut you off.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
So are you saying that even Salandinos and the Liver King, they're not even, let's say, American bovine? They're all coming from New Zealand?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
100% from New Zealand.
And
Yeah.
and so this is why I've obviously gravitated to you. You know, there's competition out there, but for me, I'm like, no. I want a Canadian, like I want a Canadian supplier. So here we are. So please continue. I just needed to reinforce that because it's just interesting to know that, because I thought that they were coming from the States. So it's just interesting that they're from New Zealand.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad that you want to kind of touch on that. That's something that's near and dear to my heart. So I have nothing bad to say about New Zealand. Those guys do an incredible job. Great, you know, land, great animals. In fact, one of the farmers that we work with here in Canada, that's the only thing he knows. He only knows grass-fed, grass-finished. So they've got incredible skills out there. What I wanted though was I wanted to lift where we stand. I wanted to get connected with our farmers, and I have to say, I'm gonna just brag on our farmers a little bit. In my opinion, nobody does it better than Canadian farmers that are doing it right. So, and North America, there's the same practices that are going on in the USA. It's just not being talked about. So in Canada, and part of Higher Health's goal is connecting people to real food. Part of that process is obviously not just the food, but it's the ability to give thanks to who made it, to understanding where it came from, the animals, the farmers, and understanding that work. So connecting those dots within our company is essential. And we didn't want to go overseas for any of that. We wanted it right on home soil from the people that are doing it properly. And then the more that we're able to support local farmers within Canada, the more that we can see these farming practices rise on home soil and people doing it right and converting over from the large feedlot ways that, you know, a lot of us don't want and the earth doesn't want. So we want to support that right here in Canada. And that was essential and critical for us. So that's a big piece.
That's great. No, I'm right with you, and I really appreciate that. And I knew that, you know, looking at the website and looking at the story, but hearing that just gives me more reassurance, and it lets me know that I'm on the right path and I'm making the right decision as well. And therefore, my community and my students and my clients, they're on the right path as well because they trust me. So it's really, really important. So maybe do you want to just touch on maybe one more point on the agricultural practices? What are some of the things that separate the Canadian farmers from everyone else?
Yeah, so our soil is incredible. I think that when you get into the conversation of steak, for example, and let me just brag on Alberta here a little bit, and feel free to toot your horn in Ontario or wherever you're at in Canada listening in. Feel free to pat those farmers on the back, but I'm going to go ahead and argue to say that you're not going to find a better steak. You know, so I'll do that. And I'm born and raised in Saskatchewan, and those guys, same thing. I'm just going to brag on all of Canada, let's be honest, but nobody does it better, in my opinion. So that's super important to understand that. And then when it comes to the farming practices, getting into more education and knowledge on regenerative farming is very important for us in the world. So we've gone the way of a lot of monocropping, and folks getting reconnected to the land and those farming practices is super important, because then you understand the sustainability of the land and the animals. The monocropping, where we are wiping out habitats, doing one crop, eliminating essentially animals from the land, you've destroyed that ecosystem. Now, when you've removed animals from the land, you've got to now truck in and cart in all the fertilizers. Then you're going to need pesticides, herbicides to keep the animals off of that land, and the insects and birds and you name it from destroying those crops. This is a broken model, broken system. So what we want to do is we want to mimic what we've seen in our land for hundreds of years before making that mark. So there was ruminants all over this land, and they would move and rotationally graze as regenerative farmers like to practice right now. And these farmers are moving their cattle in between 2 to 8 times a day. It's absolutely incredible, so that these cattle are eating the most nutrient dense portions of the grasses, those top portions, and then on they move. They are, pooping and peeing all over that land. They've got their hooves that are punching it into the ground. You have a conversation with a regenerative farmer, and they happen to walk across a cow patty and see dung beetles everywhere. It's awesome to see them light up about dung beetles, and it's just understanding that connection with the animals in the land. And then on top of that, farming and animals have been getting attacked by, veganism or vegetarianism along the way, which again is just such a massive disconnect in terms of who made your food, how it was made, and what the land looks like pre and post your harvest. It is completely different. And when you get into farmers, small farmers, regenerative farmers doing it right, now you've got a conversation of rich soils that sequester more carbon. They retain more water than the dehydrated, stripped lands of monocropping. You've got deeper roots to be able to do that. It's all around. It's not even a comparable. It's night and day difference. And if you've ever seen a monocrop versus a rotationally grazed regenerative farm, you won't have a hard time choosing what land you want to hang out on. And I guarantee you won't have a hard time choosing what you think the animal's going to want to hang out on. That's for sure. So,
and I don't, I agree. And I don't want to digress too far, but that's one of the things that's funny in the misconception with vegans and vegetarians. They don't really quite understand the steps and how much actually death is involved with their crops or the finished product that they're eating. So I don't want to digress too much with that, but why don't we go into, why not real organ meat? I know you talked about the taste, but why aren't you inclined to just try to sell that more often and get people to eat the real stuff?
Yeah, I love the question. Great question. It's so number one, if you can do it, folks. Build a relationship with a local farmer in your area. Support them. Consume the if you are a hunter, please harvest that stuff, cook it with your friends, your family, eat it. And that goes for folks that eat organ meats as well. So in terms of the desiccated organ meats that we do, we've found so many people that have removed this from their diet. They no longer have a palate for it. So good luck trying to cook it or ask them to eat it raw. It's just not going to happen. So first and foremost, we definitely hats off to those that want to try it and eat it, enjoy it. Please do that. Continue to do that. It's incredible. We've ended up finding that we've got customers that are hunters and regular organ meat eaters, as well as people that do not want to touch it. We're so blessed that we've been able to introduce organ meats into everybody's life that absolutely can't stand the taste, texture, or smell of organ meats. We know that we're improving their health, but we're also super pumped to see that we've got all sorts of hunters and organ meat eaters also jumping on board, because one of the issues that I ran into as well, is I wasn't having it nearly enough. And I'll be honest with you too, Brendan, when it comes to a nice juicy ribeye or T-bone steak over a piece of liver, it's the ribeye and T-bone steak that win 10 out of 10 times. I'm going to go for that. Okay. I'll be honest. So, as somebody that enjoys organ meats, I don't get it quite as often as I like either. So yeah, the desiccated organ meats, what we do has made it readily available for everybody in that sense. So it's been great.
So really quick then, how old is Higher Healths?
Yeah. So, we are 2 years in June is exactly when it'll be. Yeah.
So who is your target demographic? Who's your ideal customer? And then also, who are you seeing that are your main customers? And you've always obviously just mentioned hunters, but so who else are your customers?
Yeah. So, Brendan, absolutely everybody. And it sounds crazy when you're discussing like a business model or whatever, but we're talking about real food. So it's really everybody. And we just got an Instagram post from a lady that was taking it as a prenatal vitamin, and she's just gotten word back from her midwife and some of the nurses that they cannot believe the bone density in her child. And she's just, saying, I don't know for sure, but she wants to attribute it to the beef liver that she ensured that she had in her diet. So we've got, go ahead. If
I was going to say two quick things. Can you please repeat the pregnancy? Because anytime I hear supplements and women can take them, I always repeat that, because so many times women are told, don't take that if you're pregnant. So are you saying that these are safe for women, either pregnant or breastfeeding and so forth?
I'd be willing to say not only safe, but absolutely essential. In the food that you eat, do you want it to be bioidentical, bioavailable, as in, do you want your body to recognize what it is and actually take up the nutrients for health or not? And so, yeah, if you're going to have a vitamin, multi-mineral, multivitamin, whatever it is, do you want it to work? And I can't tell you how many times I've been frustrated with that in my journey in health and nutrition, Brendan, of going like through fruits and vegetables and going, gosh, like how fast the nutrients start to diminish as soon as that fruit is picked from the tree. How much is lost in the processing and the time that it actually finally reaches your body? How much is taken up? How much is actually available for you to digest? So it's so limited. It's a racket. I'll tell you that much. The supplement industry can be an absolute racket of what's actually in there, how it works. Some of the focuses, I was just in conversation with somebody last week that had been selling a product for the last 5 years. And one of the things that she thought was in there was green tea. Turns out she bought this supplement, the license to sell it off somebody else that never once put green tea in it. There's, just kind of weird things that go like that. But at the end of the day is, do you want real food in your diet? And I can't think of a more important group of people than ladies that are looking to get pregnant.
Great. I'm glad we brought that up. So in addition to that, then what are some of the main benefits that an average person can see when they consume, let's just say, the isolated desiccated liver? And then following that, what can some people see for benefits for taking some of the organs?
Right. Yeah. So, and just to expand a little bit more on that demographic,
Sure.
All the way up until the elderly individuals, at what point in time do you not want to have good bone density? And so you always want to be eating real food. And so, yeah, into some of the benefits of eating organ meats, we see even among meat eaters, massive benefits of reintroducing organ meats. And we're still learning within nutrition. We're still learning some of the hormones that are involved, some of the peptides, some of the cofactors. Not all of this has been discovered. And I've got a really good feeling that a lot of this stuff is flown under the radar in many physicians and scientists and nutritional gurus around the world, that we're still learning some of the hormones and effects that organ meats and meat in general actually provides you nutritionally. So organ meats are by far and away some of the most nutrient dense foods. Liver is very prized amongst all of the organ meats. And that's how Higher Health started. We started out with liver. It was like, I want to get this into everybody's diet. This is so important. So when you take a look at some of the amino acid breakdown, the minerals, the vitamins, it's absolutely rich. Vitamin A, the B vitamins, you've got your choline, selenium, and the list goes on and on. The one great thing that I can talk about in organs so easily is that it is like a symphony. And so what we've done in the nutrition world and the supplement world is we've really isolated pretty much everything, much like many physicians. You've got an eye doctor, you've got a brain doctor, a nose doctor, a foot doctor, it just goes on and on into these fractions. And so we've done that with supplements as well. You can go to the store and you can get a bottle of vitamin E, bottle of vitamin D, bottle of vitamin C. They've all been completely isolated. Minerals and vitamins and enzymes don't work like that at all. They don't work effectively at all when they're isolated. So in whole foods, you're going to find them all together. And they help one another in terms of absorption, in terms of interacting with each other and making sure that those are interacting properly within our body. So it's bioidentical. So when we consume it, our body recognizes it for what it is, and that uptake actually works. So when we've isolated these vitamins, these minerals, they do not work. They need to have that symphony. For example, fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K. You need fat for those to actually work and be absorbable by the body. Without that, and so for our organs, for example, they're undefatted. Yes, that's absolutely a thing, and it's a very important thing. This food has to be as found in nature for all of these things and elements to work. So some of the benefits that you're going to find in our day-to-day lives and nutrition, we are deficient in so many of these vitamins and minerals. Gentlemen, ladies can see sometimes a radical boost in B vitamins or in energy because of the B vitamins that are now readily available. Bone density happens. We've got vitamin K2, which is completely different to vitamin K1 in terms of effectiveness. Vitamin K1, negligible, almost entirely ineffective. Vitamin K2, essential, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, all able to aid in that bone density for you. Hormones, the precursors. So you've got your cholesterol, and these are the precursors to important hormones. The ultimate all-around feel-good hormone, testosterone, is now got the building blocks to be made. So we see fertility going through the roof. There was actually a study in 2019, can't remember the individual, but Harvard TV study that was done on the increase in sperm amongst males among red meat eaters that incorporated liver into their diets. They found a 50% increase in sperm, 43% increase in concentration, and an 8% increase in motility. So whoever's hopping on our liver, just be careful. You are a loaded gun and you're ready to get somebody pregnant. So just, a heads up. So there's all sorts of benefits across the board. I've had people reaching out to me that are sleeping. It's rich in vitamin B2, riboflavin. This is the kind of stuff that is long forgotten in individual amounts that don't allow us to recuperate and get into proper secretion of melatonin. And so that we've seen that. What else? We could run a business alone on the amount of individuals that are deficient in iron today. Anemia is incredible. And again, talking about synthetic forms of iron that frankly are dangerous when people are on that. And so we've had people reaching out within a week, able to get rid of their synthetic form of iron and get onto a heme-rich iron that's available in liver. And maybe this is a good segue into our other organ meats, like our beef organs, because that contains spleen, which is 5 times richer, and it's the most abundant in heme iron out of all of the organs. And so that's changed people's lives drastically. And the really cool thing about anemia, or people reaching out that had anemia, is that it's almost instantaneous in terms of that result. So we have some folks going like, oh, well, I see the benefits immediately, or how's that work? Well, it's always so individual on individual. You know, how do you move? Are you somebody that goes to the gym or plays sports? How do you sleep? How is your current nutrition? Maybe you've got all those things really well dialed in. And so then you incorporate organ meats looking for a drastic change. It might not just be there. So that's where it's important to just understand, well, still being proactive about your nutrition and ensuring that you've got great foundation, which is organ meats, connecting to that real food and ensuring that that's there. You're never going to go wrong, because now you're protecting your body, you're boosting your immune system. But when you go to the other end of the spectrum, and folks that are anemic, as soon as they get heme iron rich bioavailable iron into their body, they can have an upwards of 75% boost in energy. Like, they come back to life instantly. It's amazing. So you got both ends of the spectrum. And then, you know, to go from liver to say heart for, oh, go ahead,
really
Brendan.
quick. So just by the sounds of it, it sounds like the desiccated liver could ultimately even replace a multivitamin. Would you agree?
The liver alone absolutely could. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you stack, like you go into beef organs where you've got liver, heart, kidney, and spleen combined, it really is. It absolutely is Mother Nature's ultimate multivitamin, multimineral.
So I've got a question then. It's a 2-part question. So obviously it's going to continue on, and you're going to continue to expand with the benefits. But then why don't we go into how glandulars work and why you are not only producing just the liver, but in addition to that, some of the other organs?
Yeah. So there's such unique cofactors involved, and peptides involved in the organs. So it goes to a very ancestral, traditional thought process of like treats like. And so when you're looking at the exact breakdown of these organs, you take the heart, for example, there's such a major, I believe it's still the #1 cause of death in America, and maybe #2 in Canada, is heart disease. And we've removed these foods from our diets, and we're flabbergasted, right? It's no wonder. But these organs have in that sense of the ancestral like treats like, it's got that exact tissue breakdown, the peptides, the cofactors, the enzymes that your own heart needs. And so when you're looking at all of these individual organs, these glandulars, it's important to have these in your diet, whether you're healing or you're just being proactive on your nutrition and wanting to make sure that all your bases are covered. Kidney, you've got your urinary tract, you've got your immune system that you're trying to look after. The spleen, same thing. Immune system, it's got its specific breakdowns of splenopentin. It's got everything that you need to support these activities within your own body. So that's why it's important. And as a company, we've, you know, and I'm sure I don't want to jump ahead on you with this one, Brendan, but it's important to get these, and we're looking to get more so that we can cover even more bases for that.
So yeah, I'm just going to show everyone. So this is the beef liver. This is what it looks like. And I also definitely want you to touch on glass bottles. Why they're blue. I've already made a post and I've mentioned that, but hearing it from you is important just as well. And again, so this is the beef organs, and it contains, as you'd mentioned, the liver, the heart, the kidney, the spleen. And as you'd mentioned before, and I'm going to reiterate, grass-fed, grass-finished, big difference, folks, from, let's say, grass-fed, grain finished, where farmers like to fatten up the animals to make them more of their more profits, because more pounds equals profits, and also not grain fed. And for those that know, people that know, cows are allergic to corn and they shouldn't be consuming it. Meanwhile, that's what all factory farmers are feeding their lot. So there's that. Dr. Nandor, I don't know if he's still on the call or not. He might be, but he mentioned to me about testicles, and he mentioned about pancreas, and he wanted to ask me to ask you, is there any expansion with that? And how come you don't offer pancreas right now? Because as you'd mentioned, like heals like. So if someone has kidney disease, they're going to benefit from taking the organs because you have kidney in them. So someone with pancreatitis or diabetes, we can assume that they're going to benefit from that because there's pancreas. But do you want to just expand and talk on that then?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with that one there. In terms of expanding in Canada, so we've got access to all the organs that we can currently harvest right now in Canada. So it's a frustrating topic for me, for sure, because that's first and foremost. Our goal is to connect people with farmers and the land here, right on home soil in Canada. So I have no interest in going to source out of country for these things until I absolutely get all the doors slammed shut on my face about getting the other organs, and then I might consider something, whatever, because you're right, Brennan. It's so important that we have these organs in folks' diets. So right now we've got access to liver, heart, kidney, and spleen. We are working really hard to open up Health Canada and the CFIA's mind on the benefits of these other organs, and that other people around the world are safely harvesting these for human consumption, believe it or not. So it's a tough battle for sure. But there's red tape around this stuff, and it moves very slowly. And I get asked these questions monthly of, hey, are you expanding into other products or doing other things? And let me tell you, pancreas, testicle are probably some of the top things that I want to get my hands on. Not literally, but and then we want lung. Lung is actually, we should be able to get access to lung fairly soon. So we're looking forward to that. Ovaries, the thymus gland, intestines, gosh, what else? Eyeballs.
Even Catherine just mentioned, what about placenta?
Placenta, yes, Catherine, absolutely. It's so tricky.
It's just difficult. Yeah.
It's super difficult. It's something new. Even believe it or not, just getting going as far as we have gone so far with all of the organs has been mind-blowingly hard and difficult. So, but worth the fight, absolutely. So all of those organs are on our list. We want to acquire them. We want to start harvesting them, and we want to open that up for Canadians to, and that's opening it up for the farmers too. So just to maybe go back onto the conversation you talked about, grass-fed, grass finished, not grain finished. We're supporting these farmers that understand and want to treat their animals that way. It's important for them to feed their animals foods that are native to their diet and not enter the big beef commodity where it's all about fattening up that cow as much as they possibly can before it either dies or goes to the butcher. So that's important. We're dealing with farmers that love and respect that method of ensuring that these animals are always on grasses that are native to them. So I hope I answered kind of those two questions there,
so
Brendan. And then
it's definitely it's definitely a conversation piece. It's definitely in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And and I can understand your frustration. I get my raw milk from a farmer, and he has been rated. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's providing incredible, healthy food, and it's a challenge. So I can only imagine the individuals that are on the board, and don't worry, none of them are on this call, but I can imagine the decision makers, maybe they're not as health inclined as everyone that's on the call and yourself. And that's a frustration. And I can see the frustration in your eyes, but I know that you're working hard at it. Do you want to just talk then really quick about quality
Yes,
and really quick, just the glasses, because it's important with the bottles.
for sure. Yeah. So, and hey, hats off to you for that, Brendan. I'm glad you didn't mention that farmer either, because if you've got a source of some raw milk, good for you. That's the way to go. And then speaking of raw milk, one thing that is an absolute no in Canada is raw milk, and therefore colostrum. We will not be able to get our hands on colostrum in Canada. So that is a product that I will be sourcing from AAA Holstein grass-fed, grass-finished cows out of the US. And we hope to have that available for Canadians very soon.
Well, let me know, because I actually offer colostrum through my practice, and it's coming from the States as well. And really quick story, I don't want to digress too far, but my little Pomeranian was very sick a few days ago and wasn't eating, and it's not a good sign. So I gave her some colostrum, and then a couple hours later, I gave her some more colostrum. Complete 180, feeling good, no more sickness, got her appetite just from 2 servings of colostrum.
That's amazing. that's why we've got to put this in our diets as well. That's the way to do it.
So you guys are working on colostrum?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's exciting.
It is. Yeah. So, yeah, to jump into the quality, for me, the farmers aren't messing around. They're doing it right by the animals, by the land. Our Canadian farmers are taking this seriously. They're producing an absolute premium quality product, and I'm so thankful for that. And so that we've worked hard to just harvest from and support those individuals. So the last thing that I want to do is put a premium high quality product in a plastic bottle. I have zero interest in that. From a xenoestrogens standpoint, I don't want any leaching. I don't care if it's 0.00001%. I don't want any of that interacting with the food at all. So that's why we went with glass. We went with a darker kind of blue glass. It's not a like dark black. It's going to have a little bit of sunlight coming in there, but it's definitely limited. It comes fresh from our facility. And by the way, we're also, Brendan, the only company that controls the product every step of the way directly from the farmer. So we have the facilities, we've grown them and built them in Canada here. So we do all of that. And then, yeah, it goes right into the glass jars where there's no interaction with plastics or anything harmful. And then oxygen and light does interact with nutrients, with minerals. And so limiting that is essential. So as soon as you get that out of the dark box, as much as you want to have it on the shelf and brag to all your buddies that you're taking some beef organs from Higher Healths, which I appreciate, store it in a dark cupboard furthermore as well, just to protect it from any sort of sunlight. So
okay, so, and that's great. We've got 10 more minutes left. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Why don't you take the reins from here on out? What messages do you want to share to your potential customers, your audience, the Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff? How can they get it? Is there possibly a special promo code or something like that? Whatever, you've got the reins. You can take control of the last few bits of the conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Brendan. Well, yeah, for a promo code or anything like that, we'll discuss and make sure that that goes through your hands. So, but yeah, you can find us online at higherhealths.ca. And so that's for Canada. And by the way, we're expanding into the US, and in the US, we'll only be dealing with US cows. Crossing the border is way too much headache. So we're going to keep the company separate that way. But higherhealths.ca for our Canadian website, that is 100% pure Canadian. You'll find absolutely everything on there. You will see a second to everyone social media on Instagram. We do organ meats really well. Social media, really not well. So you'll see that with us. Forgive us there. So that's at HH Sups. You'll find us on Instagram. And then as soon as we can hand that off to somebody that actually knows how to run an Instagram page properly, you'll have a lot more interactivity. But whoever hops on there and gives us a hello or whatever it is, we absolutely appreciate it. People are sharing stories on there all the time, which is so incredible. It's humbling for sure. And then in terms of future, I like to let folks know this in the future. The goal being that we want to connect people to real food. We also want to connect folks to those farmers. So we've got one spotlight up right now, and that's with Gemstone. And by the way, if you're looking in the Alberta area and you're looking for meat, please reach out to Gemstone. Absolutely incredible. You can do, whatever butcher box you want to do. You can do a half cow, full cow, whatever it is. And we've been to these farms. We've shared steak lunches with these guys. They're incredible people. So support, and that goes for wherever you are in Canada. Definitely get connected, reach out to local farmers, support them that are doing it the grass-fed, grass-finished way. So it's well worth it for sure.
Are any of your supplements available at any stores or anything like that, or is it all online exclusively through your website?
Yeah, great question. There are a few select stores that do carry it, that wanted to carry it, that can speak to it properly, and they move it exceptionally well, which is great. But majority is directly from us online, and free shipping on all orders, so you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, that's the best way to go about it.
So what I'll do then, because I've got everyone on the Zoom, and then anyone that leaves a comment on Facebook, I'll just send them all like maybe a private message, just from an enclosing message with some options and things like that they can move forward with if they want to get some product. So again, and my story is I've been using them just for a little while now, and I feel more anabolic. I actually feel I can see more intense vascularity, and I feel as though that my pumps are getting a little bit fuller, and I just feel stronger. So I can attest to that.
That's awesome. Right on. And that's coming from you, who's jacked and knows how to get it done in there. So that's, appreciate you sharing that.
It is definitely a real sensation that I've noticed. So yeah, I can definitely attest that. And the health benefits, right? They're monumental, and I'm learning from my mentor, Dr. Nander Bajuz, and anything that he says, I do. And he's been doing this as well. So it's fantastic. So I just wanted to thank you again one more time and congratulate you on the business and the growth. And I'm happy to be part of it. And I'm happy to offer this to my community and everyone that's on the call, just because we're always, as my mentor says, Dr. Nander, he says, we're doing God's work, and we're sharing God's work with trying to get people healthier. So thanks again.
Hey, thanks so much for the time, and thanks to everybody for the support. Thanks for supporting Canadian. Very, very appreciated. Brendan, an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. And again, I will reach out to you privately afterwards. And for everyone on the call, I will email you all individually. I'll just send you kind of like a summary of what we talked about, some of the benefits, and then maybe a link, and you guys can place your own order and get some of your own beef liver and beef organs, because you're going to love them.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. See you later. And we are gallery here. We're going to go off.